Ready, steady, Freddy.
Welcome, everybody, to the TFS Record Review. This is our first episode, and if you're wondering what it is we are doing here, we are here to share with you this week's news, events going on, and records that were beaten recently. Though, of course, this episode was announced about a month and a little more ago, so some of these records we're actually sort of updating as we go. So some of these were a little bit out of date, but our normal routine is going to be every 2 weeks we're going to produce this, and so then you'll be able to get all the fresh stuff, all the good fresh produce, none of that bruised stuff.
So you're telling me that in record review we're going to review records of video games?
Yeah, we lost a few of them because since they were submitted, some of them have been beaten by these fabulously talented people, but we've got most of it updated. We didn't lose very much, so we've got a little more than 20 records to talk about today, some events going on in the community, so.
Awesome, I'm excited. I'm excited for this first ever TFS World Record.
So, I guess to start off with, let's talk about just a few events coming up. I think that's probably the valuable place to start. So, just some events going on. We've got next weekend, I think that's February 2nd, there's going to be a Nothing But Sonic and Mario charity marathon that's being put on by Big John. You can find it at his Twitch account, twitch.tv/BigJohn. He got the name change.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Are Sonic and Mario allowed to be on the stream at this?
Well, it's funny that you should ask that, because you would think that in a Nothing But Sonic and Mario stream, it would be like alternating back and forth between Mario and Sonic games. But they actually have a few Mario and Sonic games, like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games.
Yep.
So,
see, I thought you were going to go a different direction and say it actually has no Mario and Sonic games. It's just a Kirby marathon.
It'd be funny to do a Nothing But Sonic and Mario marathon, but have no Sonic and Mario.
Yeah, that would really trick a lot of people, I feel like.
I feel like it would really mess a lot of people up.
Yeah, I didn't know he got the name change. He was Big John 6 before?
No, Game J06.
Oh, Game J06. So he is just Big John now on
He's
Twitch.
just Big John now.
Oh, wow.
Just
big day.
He's just Big John, so...
There's no Game J.
Yeah, a lot of applause is in order for him.
Yeah, that's always a good feel.
Yeah, I know what it's like to need the rebranding, so... I've
been waiting for youtube.com/JohnCarls for a long time. It's my final...
Yeah, that's all you've got left. Yeah,
it's my final piece to have, like, you know, you're playing like Risk. This is my final piece to get, you know, extra troops each round and all that.
You need more people in South Korea to watch your tennis video, so you can finally get partnership with YouTube.
Yeah,
so I'll change your name.
So I can make some demands. So we've got that event. That's next weekend. That's gonna be awesome.
I believe so. That's February 2nd. So we've got WASD 2019. That's a event that's been put on previously. I've definitely heard of it before in 2018, but it's an event that's put on by University of Warwick's Computing Society. They've got, I guess, a speedrunning contingency in their at their university, and so they do some live event there as well. So you can find that event. That starts on the 1st of February. That's this Friday, and it's going pretty much all weekend at twitch.tv/Warwick Esports. So you can find that. It should be pretty good. They've got a post on speedrun.com that tells a little bit more about what they've got going on. Unfortunately, speedrun.com and our speedrun are both websites that are essentially down right now, which makes for a really good time to talk about all that speedrunning stuff. If you need your fix, we're pretty much all you got. So,
wow, that's really cool that this university has, like, are they going to be doing, like, you know, a set of games over the weekend or whatever, like a normal marathon? Or
I think it's just different people come in and show off speedruns and demos. It's like a combination of speedruns and super plays, so it's got a lot of stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So there's that. ESA Winter 2019 is coming up real soon.
That's a big one.
That's the big one. So definitely check them out. I always love ESA because they do a really good job of booking a lot of content and actually having 2 concurrent streams usually. So if one channel is showing something that you're not really into, you can always switch over to the other channel. No big deal, and just sort of run with it. So it should be a really good one. It's got a lot of really great stuff. Their schedule's up online at esamarathon.com, so you can go check it out. But they've got 2 whole streams. Both of them are pretty much blocked around the clock. The stream 2 is a little bit lighter. There's some longer things going on there, so your longer runs will show up on that stream. But
that's a really cool idea. I like that,
it is.
especially separating it longer streams, shorter streams, or longer games, shorter games. Kind of makes sense, like, because when you have a big giant chunk of like, hey, we're doing FF9, it's like, if they don't want to watch that particular run, you know, your main channel is gonna be missing people for a long time. I feel like that's a cool idea.
So the question in chat was, are all of the runs that we're going to be talking about today new world records that are set? So the goal is, this episode's going to be a little bit different because this episode got announced long enough ago that some of them were obsoleted, some of them are a little older than we would usually talk about. But the typical goal is that you're hearing about records that are within the last 2 weeks. So this is going to be an every 2-week show. We usually stream every other Sunday with our actual episodes for the podcast. The off weeks, we're going to do this on Sunday nights where we're talking about records that happened in the last 2 weeks since our last episode.
And I think the question's asking also if PBs are accepted. We are doing only world records. So
Yes.
this is the cream of the crop. Creme de la creme, as the kids say.
Yeah, so updates to world records, either submitted by the world record holders themselves or, you know, interested fans, but we're mostly just trying to cover what's been going on so you can keep up with the entire speedrunning community. It can be very difficult to keep track of what everyone is doing in their little communities, so.
Absolutely. So if there is a run that you see that maybe you don't also submit it as well, if you're passionate about watching or being involved, etc. So with right after / overlapping with ESA Winter, we have Midwinter Speed Sprinter 2019. That'll be February 22nd to the 24th. That's part of the
VGM Con?
Okay.
It's happening at VGM Con, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh,
in Minnetonka,
cool.
Minnesota. And so it's an on-site event, but if I'm not mistaken, Midwest Speed Fest, are they the one that have been doing this sort of hybrid of both online runs and in-person runs? I'm not sure if that's...
I thought theirs was in person, but I guess I might be mixed. Buckeye, Speed Bash, there's so many of these different...
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can them in my head.
I know that this one's specifically taking place at VGM Con in Minnesota, so this one's probably just in person, but it's taking place at a convention, so if you live in Minnesota, this might be a good place to hang out. You've got a con going on, you've got speedrunning to go check out whenever there's nothing going on at the con. Should be a good time.
Yeah. But if you're chilling, looking for speedrun content, you know, the 18th to the 24th, we've got ESA and Midwinter Speed Sprinter, so that's a pretty packed, you know, 4, 5, 6 days there that you can watch a lot of speedruns.
So most of the runs that we're planning on talking about are ones that have been specifically submitted by people, and so typically we're not going to go to great lengths to single things out ourselves, but we will probably always try to hit a few of the highlights, and I think one that really deserves being mentioned, especially over the past few weeks up to a month, is definitely Celeste. Celeste has seen a lot of activity lately, between some new tech that was found several months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, the demo dash. It's like a frame perfect trick that cuts out some content, as well as adding in the I think it's the chapter 5 B-side is now faster. It's faster to finish the chapter 5 B-side rather than finishing the chapter 5 A-side to progress the story.
Yeah, I believe so.
And then
the route.
More optimized movement. A trick was discovered where you could actually skip the intro cutscene, and the devs, if I'm not mistaken, responded by actually just making it so you could skip the intro cutscene for free. So that cut out like another 20 seconds. And so the runs come way down. I mean, when we did our episode on it, the record was 31:30, and it's already down to like low 28 now.
28:07. I watched CGH has been grinding really hard on this. He's actually been doing a really cool, I believe, like 50 no reset run challenge, where he's taking all the data from every split that he has, you know, how many early puts he's done, other stuff like, you know, where his deaths were, where his time losses were, and so he's kind of like tracking that info. So he's going real hardcore. He's going Moneyball. He's going baseball analytics.
Yeah, that
breaking
was
that down, but.
Inspired by Spike Vegeta was the one who mentioned doing a 100 no reset challenge. That was like 6 months ago, maybe, that he sort of brought that up, and everyone in the community latched onto the idea. I'm not sure that everyone latched onto it for 100 runs, but
no, but the specific idea of setting aside X amount of runs that I will not reset, so I can, you know, get a better sense for where I stand with the whole run, has been a bit more popularized since he did that, for sure.
Yeah, so this is apparently part of it. Part of what has helped probably push TGH as far as he has come is definitely, you know, less of a motivation to reset and more just trying to recover from mistakes and see what he can do. And his run definitely reflects it. He lost the world record for a very short period of time. I think Flatterby had a faster time for a very brief window.
He did lose it, yes. He was not. He was second, like, so this has changed hands, I think, a couple times, even since we announced that we were doing this. So it's very active right now. The world record is constantly at risk of being broken. I know TGH can improve his time. I believe he did have a couple deaths that were non-intentional. We just saw one of the intentional deaths, but yeah, I definitely recommend following, especially TGH, but any of these runners. This is a real comfy speed run to watch. It's one of the most technical new speed games we've had in the community in a while, I would say. And I think it's going to be around for years to come, I think, in terms of kind of one of these iconic speed games, in my opinion, at least.
It's just incredible because it always feels like, all right, well, this big thing was discovered and a lot of work has been done and the run's gotten really optimized, and just feels like at some point it's going to settle down, but the time just keeps coming off. And I think that's a lot to do with the caliber of runners who are playing the game at the top level. No one's satisfied with just getting a good run. Everyone wants to get that run, you know, the one.
And the skill window is very high.
Yeah.
This game, which is why I think this is, like, I think it's a very special game. Like, I do legitimately think this is going to be a staple in speedrunning alongside the Mario 64, Super Metroids, SMB1s, those kind of games. It's so technical, and that skill ceiling is so high that it's going to be really interesting to see where it can be pushed. Along with the fact that we could just continue to find new things, right? I mean, it's only been out a year, so I mean, we're still finding new things and stuff like, you know, Mario 64, Final Fantasy 7. Those games have been out 20 years, so I'm excited to see where this game goes, for sure.
Yeah, it just keeps coming down. You're absolutely right. It's got such a huge skill window that, I mean, even the best runners probably have considerable time to save just by, you know, more optimized movement, fewer small mistakes,
Absolutely.
things like that.
I mean, it's not uncommon to see pH like -10 or something, which is not something you see in like an SMB1 or something super optimized, but it's because there's so many places to save time or make mistakes in this that I think the run will definitely be a 20 in a upcoming episode of this for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those games. We've talked a lot about episodes that we kind of wish we could revisit. This is one that we both, you know, we try to do a good job of not visiting a game so early that it becomes obsoleted, and usually an episode becoming obsoleted because new tech has come out isn't that big of a deal, but it does feel like this game almost deserves a round 2 to talk about again. So
yeah, I think we didn't game would become so big either. Like, we've kind of delayed doing Odyssey Wild for that reason, kind of huge installments, and I think we just thought of this, you know, this indie game that people liked a lot, but it's continued to grow and develop, and it's now becoming a staple.
It's unstoppable, man.
Yeah,
that's what it is. So why don't you tell me a little bit about this bad boy, Final Fantasy VII?
Have you heard of this game?
I have heard of this game. I'm
it's
a big fan of it.
Those role-playing games that they have.
You're
on
a big fan of it too. You've run it.
I mean, technically, yes. I have put a timer on and beaten the game in a sitting.
Technically speaking, if we scroll down far enough, we will see your name on the leaderboard. Correct?
It's hard. You got to have a lot of RAM on your computer in order to process how far you have to scroll down. But Final Fantasy VII has grown a whole ton since I started following it. It was a 8-hour run when I first started watching it 4 years ago, and the thought was, you know, basically somebody will eventually get a really perfect RNG run and get a sub 8, but now it is down to a 7-15 for no slots and sub 7 for slots, which are the two main categories. Slots uses a limit break from one of the characters. You can get to one-shot all the bosses, so it's just a very different speed run. But a skip was found within the last few months that saves 22 minutes. That skips a whole reactor, reactor 5, a lot of cutscenes, and we can show it here. It's super simple. You can even like brute force it, which surprises me that nobody found it before. But essentially now, after doing the first reactor and going back into, you know, what is Tifa's place called? I can't remember. But
Tifa's place.
Tifa's place. You know, instead of going on to do a whole nother reactor and then cutscenes, and Aerith is kidnapped, and then you go to Wall Market. Now you skip directly from after the first reactor to Wall Market. By basically, these two guys were the reason we couldn't progress in the game. But if you go around them, now the game thinks we're going to Wall Market.
All you got to do is walk around them.
Yeah, so nobody had thought of that for 20 years.
I surely hope someone got fired for that gaff.
Yeah, no, it's really hard. I mean, like, I'm sure people had tried, like, you can't get past them just in a natural way, but you can definitely, like, force your way through kind of clipping out of there. But skips just a huge, ginormous section of Midgar. The Midgar splits, it used to be like a 155 was really good, and now people can get like a 135 pretty easily. So we're talking over 20 minutes of time saves.
Yeah, huge improvement. I think a bunch of people have been running it, bringing their time down with us, haven't they?
Absolutely.
Has it only been loose, or?
No. Dave Stereo's lowered his time, and the world record for no slots is held by somebody else. What was their name? Zaheel. So a lot of people have been working on it. The thing that does stink is that this obviously remaps the entire step count for the whole game. So everybody who had known the 7 or 8 hours of step count now have to know a new 7 or 8 hours of step count. And yeah, I'm glad I never learned the step count. That's the lesson here. Stop learning the strats, you nerds.
Do you know if anyone's still actively working on bringing the time down, or is
Dave Stereo's doing runs like pretty much daily.
Awesome.
So and I assume Luzbel and Zaheel are, with how recent their PBs are. And I'm sure you will see people like I would assume Carnage 64 is working on his time. His is lowered. I don't know if someone like Ben is coming back. So when we had done our episode long ago, Ben had a very, very solid world record in this game. And now he's down to 5th or 6th, because of the skip. So I don't know if he'll come back for the free PB at some point or what. That can be really frustrating when you have a very optimized time, and then now
that
he can
sucks
go ahead
because
and get
it's
a
like
PB easily, but the execution won't be the level of what his very grinded world record would be.
That's what sucks, is when you get that really optimized record that you're happy with. A new strat comes out. It's like, great, I can save 30 seconds, but that means I have to play at the same skill level I played before and get the skip in order to actually get that 30 seconds.
So you save 17 minutes on your PB, but really would have been +5 if this new strat hadn't been invented. So I don't know. I mean, you're definitely going to be more proud of the other PB, I feel like, but you got to come back and take free time save. I know when Link to the Past found the spooky action glitch, everybody came back for the free. I mean, it was only like 13 seconds, not as significant as this. But still, everybody came back because they're like, oh, I get a free PB. I just do a little bit of grinding. So But this is literally finish a run and you get a free 22 minutes. These guys are consistent enough. They're not getting +22 on any completed run. So
sure. Has the new step route already been reworked, or are they sort of just winging it?
I believe so. They have a new. I mean, obviously there would be room to refine it, I would assume. I haven't followed it closely enough to know, but this step count hasn't been used for months and months and years like the other ones to, maybe find optimizations in it, but it has been adjusted. So
well, that's good.
Kind of cool. We're only, we're getting close to maybe sub-7 for no slots one day if a couple more saves are found, but the first ever sub-7 in Final Fantasy VII happened, which is kind of cool. If you don't count the whole PC only Yuffie Warp category, this is the first sub-7 Final Fantasy VII.
That category is like what, 3 hours long?
Yeah, it's like 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, it's a lot shorter. I remember when that came out, I thought that was so fascinating. I had no interest in running.
It's a cool category. I'm not poo-pooing it, but it is like, that's not the version of the game people grew up with or whatever. Like playing it on PlayStation, gotten a sub-7 Final Fantasy VII, which I think is pretty notable and cool. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So one more thing that I want to mention is that Global Speedrun Association is actually running their first in-person event. So that's PACE 2019, which is going to have, I think, 3 games worth of events. It's, let's see, it's Celeste Any % League, Super Mario 64 70-Star League, and Super Mario Odyssey Any % League. And this is happening in, where is it? It's in Maryland. So Laurel, Maryland.
That's not far from me. That's really funny.
Yeah, maybe you should sign up and go and show everyone what you got with Super Mario.
Show them my 70-star time. How do they have a lot of time? Like, are they pretty patient or?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's expecting much of you. So,
yeah.
I think this is really exciting. There's definitely a lot of online marathons and online speedrunning competitions. This sounds, at least as far as I know, to be one of the first sort of in-person competitions. So we have lots of in-person marathons, but this is the first like in-person league or
is
kind of esports.
Is it the first ever for like tournaments and stuff? I mean, I know they finished their tournaments at, so that's like a little bit different, but like an actual meetup, because they were gonna do a randomizer. They had it organized and such, and maybe they'll do it down the road. I know
that was the one that Speed Gaming was doing, right?
Speed Gaming was going to do, but that fell through, unfortunately. So I guess this is the first I've heard of an actual in-person speedrunning tournament event.
Yeah, it's
a competition event.
It sounds exciting. I hope that it goes smoothly. I definitely have seen on the registration page a lot of big name people have registered for it, even people who don't run any of those 3 games. So I think that there's going to be, from the sounds of it, a lot of interest in just going and observing it. So I think that'll be
maybe
cool.
I'll go.
Maybe
I didn't know about it till right now, so
maybe the Frame Savers needs to cover this.
I'm so glad that I could watch a show like TFS Record Review and be informed about these awesome events.
It's
maybe
exciting.
Even go to one.
It's exciting.
It's exciting time to be alive.
Super close. Looks like.
I think we have one more that we didn't get submitted to us, and then we'll be able to kind of show a fuller video of the runs. But we have a Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal run. Is that right?
Zem actually got 2907. He's been pushing that time down for a long time. For those of you who don't know, Zem92, what are you doing? He runs a lot of the Ratchet and Clank games, and he's done a killer job. This was one that I just saw when I was browsing our speedrun for the 10 minutes it was, accessible today, and thought that I would just mention it. Wasn't one that we got submitted. I don't have a video associated with it, but it's
awesome.
It's a cool run. Zem is a cool runner, so check out Zem92. I think this was only less than a week ago, so I'm sure there's even more room to go. But definitely.
Cool. Yeah, those are cool games. So let's go ahead and move over to the records that you all submitted to us. We'll have a little bit bigger videos for you, which will be nice. We're just going to switch over there, but we're going to start in alphabetical order. So if you submitted to this, you know where yours will pop up. And this is a game that's pretty near and dear to me, Avenging Spirit.
Yeah, this is a game that both of us at least have some familiarity with. This is the arcade version of the game, but still nonetheless quite exciting. To see someone putting some effort into it. We both have interacted with this guy. He was talking to us about building out the leaderboard, and we were hoping... he was hoping to originally put it on the Game Boy leaderboard because there's a bunch of people who've already been active with that, but he built out his own leaderboard, and watching this run, it's really cool. A lot of what we know about the Game Boy version sort of seems to translate a little bit. So
this level is definitely the same design for shooting there, makes the fire go up. I speedran this game at GDQ actually, like a year and a half ago. Auth and I have both speedrun the game, and I'm like 3rd in both categories. I got a PB at GDQ, so I have great memories of this game. I got to use my GDQ VOD as my PB VOD. I've always wanted to do that, so it was cool to hear about somebody speedrunning this on the arcade one, because we had talked about the arcade version, but I've never played it, so it's cool to see.
Yeah, it looks incredibly similar. Like the level design is faithful to the Game Boy version, and the premise is a lot of fun. You're a ghost, and you have the ability to fly around outside of a body, but you can also possess enemies. So rather than just having to like kill enemies in the level, if there's one that seems relatively strong, you can possess it and take it with you.
Ooh, this is a much quicker fight. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know like how the tech is different. Speedrun. It's really cool to see, because obviously enemies and bosses and just movement is going to be different. It's clearly much more fluid, and so it's kind of cool to see that's like it's got to have its own strats and tech to it as well. But the route would be pretty much similar, I would think.
Yeah, just looking at it, I mean, even the nuances of some of the Game Boy levels, like where the hidden areas are and things like that, seems faithful to the arcade version. So
yeah, that second boss fight, which is actually pretty tricky in the Game Boy version, much faster. You don't have the lag and slowdown for Game Boy, and the crane coming down to pick you up. That's a much quicker thing to avoid. It looks like that boss fight would be a little bit less variant because of how fast it is, which is kind of...
For sure.
And I assume he probably has a decent amount more time to even take down here. Looking at his splits, he was a minute ahead going into the last one, so he probably he lost like 20-30 seconds, so might be seeing more improvement there, so go check him out.
Yeah, he mentioned in his video description that he thinks that sub 9 is possible, so another 30 seconds still seems like the door is open for, but it looks like he made use of a lot of the cool routing from the Game Boy version to be able to put together this time, so I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, so next up we've got Chalvo 55. This is by Swordsman Kirby.
This is a Game Boy game. Yeah, I love the Game Boy.
So it's got all the things John loves. It's got Game Boy. It's got Swordsman Kirby, who is on our Kirby's Adventure episode.
Oh, I know this game. I was going to say, this is a Game Boy game I don't know.
Yeah, this was actually in Tiny 10 number 4. So
that's what it was.
So Swordsman Kirby writes, a hidden Game Boy gem that was part of Tiny 10 4, but it didn't receive any full game attention until recently. The unique feature of this game is that you can only jump while in the ball form, which is consistently bouncing. One of the highlights shows off a big glitch that triggers the end of the level by zipping and transitioning off the top of a corrupted screen. The other highlights show various unintended strategies involving careful jumping and item/death abuse. Thanks to Shentalk for introducing me to this game, and Wolf Merrick for doing the initial routing.
I definitely see him clip through the top of the screen, I think.
Yeah, we may have lost that highlight, but it's got a lot of really cool stuff. I watched Swordsman Kirby actually pull the tasks and try to pull a lot of strats from that. So places where it actually like clips through the ceiling and things like that, it actually manages to pull that off. He actually manages to pull that off in the RTA run, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, this run, I remember getting a bit of attention with the Tiny 10, but I didn't know. I don't know that anybody really went and seriously put a lot of work into it outside of learning it for a multi-game marathon. So it's cool to see that somebody's done that. Swordsman Kirby was just on our most recent episode where we were talking about some video game. What video game were we talking about?
Kirby's Adventure.
Kirby's Adventure. So definitely go give him a follow. Who knows, man? Once they're gone, I'm on to the next. That's how I work. So, but no, he was on. We also were on his couch for Goof Troop. He's a really talented speedrunner with just very good times in a large variety of games. Not just like in terms of number of games, but the difference in types of gameplay. I mean, this is way different than Goof Troop and Kirby.
This here is the zipping through the wall trick.
So,
He actually just recently has been running DuckTales 2. He's been running Rescue Rangers 2. He runs a lot of high-profile games at an extremely high level. He's a really talented speedrunner. So check him out. This is a run that I don't imagine he's probably doing a lot more of. I think this was just sort of a one-off project for him. But everything he does is incredible. So
really cool to see this game get some love and work put into it, because it was a really cool addition to 10. And, you know, oftentimes when games are picked for Big 20, Tiny 10, world records go down, but it doesn't necessarily mean somebody really invested time into routing it and looking into the tasks and doing all that stuff. Usually it's just trying to get consistent strats for a multi-game marathon. So I'm glad to see that this game got the love that it deserves.
Yeah,
love those Game Boy speedruns.
A ton of time into it.
Yeah, looks really good.
All right, so our next run is Dark Arena by Tapioca. This is
Game Boy Advance video games are those video games?
Yeah, this is like a Doom clone on Game Boy Advance, but much like the Doom clones on Game Boy Advance, it has a lot of really cool out of bounds that ends up with like screen tickering. The routes for these Game Boy Doom style games always seem really, really fascinating. So this is a really cool run to watch. The actual speedrun, I think, is only 5.5 minutes long, so it's definitely worth checking out. It's got a lot of out of bounds though.
I'll read what they said. They said, even though nobody else's favorite speedrun because I did all the routing and glitch hunting myself. This game has some stupid precise tricks, and in this run I nailed almost all of them perfectly. Task is still 30 seconds faster. So yeah, I mean, I love Doom, so this is really cool to see, and shout outs to Tapioca. It's always a great feeling routing and running your first ever game. You know, a lot of people get into speedrunning. Generally, your first couple runs, you're picking up, you know, games that other people routed, and some prolific speedrunners have never gone through the process of routing a game no one's run before. So I remember my first one was Alien Syndrome. I don't know what your first game you routed was.
Probably
do you know?
Kiwi Craze, but
Nice.
the route definitely got seriously improved by the time other people came along.
Sure, but it's still a cool feeling to be the first to put together a run.
Yeah, even if you sort of look back at it later and realize that you could have done better, it's a really nice feeling to not just be building off of someone else's run, but really feel like you sort of started from scratch. It's like the difference between making a cake from a mix and making a cake from scratch, you know?
Sure. And so shout outs to Tapioca for the first time doing that. And this looks like a really cool speedrun. Really, I mean, there's a lot out about stuff. I mean, he definitely... This wasn't, I routed my first platformer and I just jumped from left, go left to right as fast as I can. He found some really interesting stuff to get to the end of these levels.
Yeah, it looks like it, I mean, from what he mentions, he says he took a lot from the TAS, which if you've never tried to route a game off of a TAS, then you may not be aware, but it's not as easy as it sounds. It is not just a matter of looking at a video and doing what the video does. If you want to base a run off of a TAS, it usually requires a lot of extra work just figuring out all the little details that the TAS went through. So,
and figuring out what can actually be viable and consistent in an RTA run versus a TAS. And yeah, this looks cool. I'd be super interested to see this game routed as a like a glitchless category just to see the gameplay, because I love Doom, and this looks like a pretty competent Doom clone for the GBA. Like, I'm tickled. It's tickled my fancy, if you will.
Okay, well, maybe we'll see another runner on the leaderboard fighting to hit that task time. So next up, we've got Daxter by Noki Doki. Daxter is part of the Jak and Daxter series. This is a PlayStation Portable game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, a PSP game. I have some familiarity doing the speedruns on PSP with a Parasite Eve recently, so it's cool to see, maybe some other games that I can put my investment towards.
Yeah, you're pretty much an expert on PSP now.
I've wasted all this money getting this capture set up. I might as well speedrun something.
So I'm not super familiar with this run specifically. Noki Doki wrote, Daxter normally has you complete 18 missions in a set order, but its physics engine isn't quite good enough to enforce that. Using various clips and teleport menu storage, we can break the sequence to pieces and face the final boss after only entering 6 missions.
Looks really cool. I mean, there's definitely a lot of out of bounds.
If I'm not mistaken, this run's actually gotten a lot of attention again recently because a new skip was found, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the names of all of the missions, but I was watching a video about the new skip that was found.
That was super cool. I don't know if you saw that, but used the jetpack and went underneath the level and somehow triggered a game. I had probably like a level completion sequence or something. Go ahead, sorry.
There's something about the Jak and Daxter games. They just all seem so exceptionally broken, and it's really fascinating to watch. Like, they're not necessarily my style to get into. I'm not saying I'll never run a Jak and Daxter game, but I'm not naturally drawn to them. But the speedruns for them are always so cool to watch. It's always, a little clip out of bounds and then stay out of bounds for 10 minutes to skip some large amount. But there was recently, I'm probably going to say the name of the wrong thing, but if I'm not it's like Construction Zone 2 or something like that. I was watching a video about it today, but it was a relatively large skip that was found very recently, and it seems like it's reignited the interest of a lot of the runners. So everyone's trying to bring their times down. And actually, Noki Doki had submitted this run for our episode when we first announced that we were going to start this show, and since then has improved it further. So this video is actually the improved world record. I had to update it because it's gotten even better since then. So
yeah, and if you're curious, I mean, this is probably, I assume this was released on PlayStation. Is that true?
This I don't
Daxter.
think. Oh, Jak and Daxter is a PlayStation series, but I think Daxter is only PSP.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, because like with Parasite Eve, we load time faster. I figured this was also run on PlayStation 1 maybe, but if it's a PSP exclusive, that's really cool because it looks like a really fun game, to be honest, and that seems like a really enjoyable length of speedrun for this kind of game. Usually they're much less, 7 minutes. That's pretty cool. Looks like here's that rocket skip again.
Says you only have to do a third of the missions. There's 18 missions, and you can face the final boss after entering 6 of them. So that certainly cuts the runtime considerably down. So
looks really cool.
Really, really neat. So it looks like next up we've got a run by a buddy of ours. Now, when he submitted this run, he was going by Bloody Candy. Now he is Belfic Gaming. So he's recently got a name change. But this is Dora the Explorer Super Spies.
Woo!
One of the most important speed games of 2019. I'm really glad that we brought it.
Look at that speed tech. Look at that movement tech. That must have been frame perfect.
There's a lot going on here. EBC wrote, this is a game I initially routed during a 12-hour challenge. I returned to the game later on because after understanding more of the movement and hitbox of Dora, I realized you could skip and manipulate a lot of the movements that were not intended. Also, you are able to skip most cutscenes if you time the start button correctly. It's a very movement-heavy run, and I would be curious to see what a 100% run would look like. It's actually quite fun, and I recommend to anyone looking for a good time, which is usually the sort of thing you see written on a bathroom stall, but... Yeah,
I'm a little bit concerned about that. I feel a little bit weird about that statement, but... yeah, I mean, I don't know what I could say that the gameplay isn't going to say for me. Clearly, a powerhouse of speedrunning to come. I mean, if anybody could improve this massive achievement of Dora the Explorer GBA speedrunning, you know, this is the time to get in. This is the time to get in.
These are always really fun games for me to route. Like I've routed games like this before. They're always so fun because I feel like you can take them exactly the level of serious you want, and no one's ever going to judge you for it. You know, if I just pick up some random,
you're doing the game a favor by running it, so that's all people expect. You're like, that was very nice of, like, it's almost like volunteering. It was very nice of you to volunteer your time to give this game a speed. You take it as seriously as you want.
I'm slumming it here, so you owe me one at this point.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I've done this with a bunch of games where it's like, I'll take it either way too seriously or not seriously at all, and it's like, who's gonna come to me and tell me that I didn't put enough effort into Dora the Explorer, right?
Yeah. This looks fun, though.
But EBC has come back to this game a few times and has actually put in quite a lot of work. All jokes aside about that, he has put in a lot of work to this game, and so it's kind of interesting to see how it's improved over time. So
absolutely, I'm ready to see the grind. I want to see more people on that Dora leaderboard. Sure.
All right, so you're gonna take.
We're gonna watch Daxter next.
Yep, it's Daxter. So here's our buddy Belfic Gaming.
Somebody got the 551.
Yep.
That could have been a.
Yeah, so this is a game for the, here we go, Fairchild Channel F, which is
That's awesome. Like, I barely know what that is as a collector.
Can you tell me what that is? I don't know.
It's like an old, I mean, I've seen people collect for it. It has, like, weird cartridges, but, like, I don't know if it's, like, a Commodore 64. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
That
it's not a good look. So,
it seems like speedrunning it's important to leave your Strider splits up on top left of so...
Yeah, it's a 7.5 second speedrun that needed a minute-long video to really sell it, but it seems a lot, just like looking at it, it seems a lot like Daxter in that it's mostly just about, you know, applying the gas, changing the gear at the right time, and seeing what sort of time you can get. I don't, like, how do you sell this game? You want to read?
I've got to say, I never thought I would be grateful for the graphical design of Daxter, but here I am. Just impressed with how good like the Atari Daxter game looks at this point. They really put the effort because what the hell am I looking at right now is what I want. Where's the game? Did he do the game yet? At what point is he doing the game, and at what point is he not doing the game? Is what I'm trying to.
So the first 8 seconds of this video, this minute-long video, are him doing the game.
Okay,
so that's what was the game. Looking at. Yeah, you missed it. You missed it. All right, here. Let me play it again. So this is it. He's going.
It's an 8-bit console, Chad is telling us.
And then he crosses the finish line, and it says winner. We'll start it again, in case you missed it. So, here it goes.
So I'm assuming he's hitting buttons for this.
Probably. There's probably a controller involved. One more time.
That makes sense.
You don't want to
a lot of these games. Where's the game? Chat wants to know where the game is. I figured it out, but...
Shout out to EBC, by the way, for the 439 in Strider.
Also, yeah, for the 439 Strider, which remains on the screen here. Apparently, you don't make splits for a 7.5 second run, so...
Yeah, it's a very interesting game. He wrote, "This run was done on the actual Fairchild Channel F. Yeah, I oddly own one. And I had to capture it through a VCR. I used the native joystick controllers with the console, and this was the first speedrun to give me blisters on my hands.
Oh,
the
geez.
shifting is actual shifting with moving the joystick in a shifting pattern while twisting the head to rev the engine and accelerate." This sounds awful.
Yeah. So he captured it through a VCR. That I like. And then you have to shift with an actual shifter? Is that what he's saying? Is there a shifting controller?
Apparently. So the controller, it probably
moving the joystick in a shifting pattern.
Yeah, he moves the joystick in a shifting pattern and rotates
rev the engine. That's cool. That's kind of cool. And sounds like a thing I would never want to speedrun.
All right, let's not pat him on the back too hard for this, okay? It's just a video game. So the thing is a lot like Daxter. It's probably way harder to achieve what he achieved than it looks. And at the same time, like, he can have it as far as I'm concerned.
I'm enjoying that we could have another Daxter. I never thought Daxter would be the name brand situation of this, and then we would have a non-name. Yeah, this is like the great value brand, Kirkland brand, Daxter speedrun that we've all been looking for.
Oh my god, Scrivo says, "Would you say that he really clutched this PB out?"
That was well done.
Nope, that's awful. Anything else to say about that? I think it seems cool. He can have it.
I love Belthic Gaming / EBC.
I love that he brings us these things. So,
yes, and I hope he brings more. So make sure you look him up. He's at Belthic Gaming now, not at Eat Bloody Candy. So his name's changed since this submission.
Yeah.
But...
All right, so next up we've got Galactic Revenge. This is easy mode on the Sega Master System. You want to read this one for us?
Sure. So I submit this run not because it is good, but because it is bad. I want more people to be aware of this wonderful free-to-play homebrew game for the Master System. Game is intentionally similar to Gremlins 2 for the NES, and there's plenty of room for damage boosts due to the knockback mechanics. It looks really cool. So this is a homebrew for the Sega Master System, which is really cool to know that they have a homebrewing community, because, you know, they didn't make any good games for it the first run around, so it's good to know someone's trying this time.
Yeah, so this is by Btrim, and he's right. It definitely looks like a Gremlins 2 clone.
Absolutely.
It's got a lot of, I think, what makes Gremlins 2 look good. So I'm glad that what they brought from Gremlins 2 were the good parts of Gremlins 2.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Like, this looks like a really interesting game. I don't know. He said he submits it not because it's good, because it's bad, but it looks like a really good game. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's maybe bad in the same ways that, I mean, it looks like it's got all the same frustrations from Gremlins 2. So I think that's sort of the added piece of it, but I don't know. This is the sort of game I could see you playing.
I mean, it just looks like a well-designed homebrew. It's cool to know people are making games in that community for Master System, and I don't know. It's interesting to see like that kind of project. Like, hey, let's translate Gremlins 2 to the Sega Master System, but also make our own sprites and our own, you know. I think the levels look like they're almost designed the exact same though, so it's almost a port. Looks like. Yep, this is similar to one of the Gremlins fights as well.
Okay, so. Well, I mean, even so, I mean, that's still pretty...
It's still really impressive and cool, for sure. So, awesome.
Yeah, that's a cool-looking run.
Hey, Btrim. Oh, because its time is bad. Well, you're putting it out there so that we can get the time to be better, so...
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in this. I feel like a lot of... Like, I really like the Sega Master System, but I feel like a lot of the games don't have a ton of pop to them, and this is just a gorgeous game for being Sega Master System.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's homebrew.
So, yeah.
People know how to make games now.
So go play Galactic Revenge. It's free-to-play homebrew, Sega Master System. Probably runs great on emulator, or if you've got a flash cart for the Genesis.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of ways to get yourself playing this.
Yeah, that's cool, because I wish there were more Sega Master System speedruns. There's just not... There's a lot of arcade ports and stuff on that console, and just not a ton of stuff that really screams speedrun, so it's cool to see somebody design stuff. I'm excited about this next one, because I love me some Harold.
Yeah, so this run was done at Potterthon 4. I'm only now learning from looking at the video of it,
It looks like it happened in Potterthorn. You can tell from the top left. It looks like
that's where I'm getting
Potterthorn 4 probably.
That's exactly where I'm getting this information
Yeah,
from.
it looks like Starlight Sims was doing an any % run in the 2 hours and 30 minutes. I get that vibe from it. You know what I mean?
I'm so glad to be friends with you. I've never seen this run. There's a lot of Harry Potter games. They made a lot of them for they made a lot of them for each console. So like the second movie had like 3 different versions.
Each book and movie has a bunch of different versions on different consoles.
And they're
There's PlayStation 1,
games.
GameCube, PC, apparently Xbox. I didn't know any of these games came out on Xbox, so now, but I guess this is the same one as the PS2 and the GameCube one.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this. I gotta be honest with you. This looks real good. I'm really into it. The Harry Potter games are like across the board really glitched and neat games. I don't want to like cast aspersions on anyone, but there's got to be something to all these licensed games that are so easily, well, not easily broken, but are so glitch heavy.
This is the one where Harry kills the Klingons.
No, this is the one where he fights with a giant 4-headed Hydra.
Oh, and then he cuts open the thing and crawls into it because he's on Hoth.
Yep, he wants to stay warm.
Okay, I remember this one.
This looks really good, though. He writes a run that was done at a Harry Potter marathon that was the beginning of December. Really good run with really good execution. It looks like it. A lot of these skips, I have to imagine, are more difficult than they look, and at least the way the video's cut together, looks like he's getting a lot of them first try, so...
Also super cool that he got a world record during this, the event, which is, always really fun to be able to do. It looks like about 12 minutes under his estimate, so really impressive to not only be that far under estimate, but to have gotten the world record.
I've watched some of the Potterthons. They put on a really good show. There's a whole community centered around the PC versions of them, and then all the console versions have their own also really good runs. So it's an interesting community around the Harry Potter games. There's a lot of really cool people doing runs of really cool games, so it's worth checking out. Let's do 1 or 2 of these, and we'll take a quick break.
Okay.
So we've got King of Dragons next up, and this run, if you
co-op,
love
co-op speedruns
by Dark Alexander and Sorcerer's Siege. If you can't tell by looking at it in the bottom left corner, this was actually done at AGDQ 2019. Looks like we got a little bit of the Hulk there in the webcam.
Ooh,
so
yep.
That's good. That's what's going on.
You've gotten Senpai's attention
for sure.
So this game looks dope. I like this. This is
if I can offer some feedback,
Super Nintendo game.
If I can offer some feedback to Dark Alexander and Sorcerer's Siege, it would be don't show your speed games to La Hulk.
No, don't.
I would say that's where you've messed up because it's a SNES game. So, don't show him these things. So this is in 29 minutes and 26 seconds, and they write, the King of Dragons has seen a lot of optimization for the small community. This is the first time the 2 contending solo world record holders have been able to get together, and we managed to improve world record by 3 minutes in our short time at the GDQ practice room. The co-op run has to balance tons of lag management, coordinated attacks, and increased boss health comparable to the single-player expert difficulty. We had pretty good luck with orb drops that significantly sped up several sections of the game, particularly the boss fights, and hopefully we can bring more light to a favorite game with the arcade version available on Nintendo Switch. There are more opportunities for people to get their hands on it.
That's so cool. So Dark Alexander is one of my viewers. I'm mad at him for not saying hi to me at GDQ. Didn't know he was there. But I always love at GDQ, you got a world record co-op, Nim and Nom, with our buddy Smartball. Mm-hmm. Also, please say, is that on this list? Did you literally not put that on this list? You're such a dummy.
No, I didn't. I got the Nim and Nom world record with Smartball. There you go.
Yeah, well, we should have a video of it anyways.
I didn't get it. John, sorry. There's a lot going on.
But it's cool because it's very hard to obviously co-op speedrun in general, let alone retro games, just in terms of technically, people are located in different places. So it's always fun that GDQs, certain communities get together and maybe do stuff like this. And it sounds like both of these runners, they said they're solo world record holders, so I assume it's probably different categories per character. So to be able to combine probably their character with the other character and get a world record, that's a lot of fun. And I remember watching like JC and TMR do Battletoads at GDQ, and like a lot of people starting to do this.
I think. No, maybe it was the second one.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was as common back then, but I think people are starting to take advantage of the time they're there and bringing, you know, portable capture equipment and getting these world records co-op on video, which is really cool.
That's the way you got to do it, you know? You got to be prepared because you never know when you're going to accidentally do a world record.
Yeah, absolutely.
So always record everything all the time. So let's hit this one last one before we just take a really short break. You want to go ahead and talk about this one?
Well, this game is a home Link to the Past. Wait, it's not a homebrew, is it?
No, it's not a
homebrew. No, Nintendo made this one. But Link to the Past, so obviously a game that me and Chad have both run a whole bunch. Love this game quite a bit. And Zelna, who is just honestly one of the top tier speedrunners. I mean, I would say his time in Link to the Past is one of the best competitive speedrun times, period. Got a 100% no major glitches PB/world record of 141.32. We see a little cheating here with the hover.
I hate to see cheating happening.
But yeah, the 100% category is really heavy on the digging game and the chess game, which are famous for adding, you know, this game doesn't have a lot of RNG, so the RNG that exists in it is even more punishing, I would say. Aghanim is such a big RNG factor, but now you're adding the digging game and the chess game to that, getting all the items. You know, it's not quite as optimized as the NMG, but it's a very difficult time to get a world record in, so that's really impressive for sure.
Yeah, it says 1 blue ball from Aghanim, 1 digging game, and 3 chest games. Solid RNG plus execution of 2 new tricks, which is the Spectacle Rock Hover Bomb Jump and the Spooky Action Glitch, which we're about to see
but that wasn't
here.
a glitch because there's no major glitches. It wasn't a. It was a little.
Well, it's a baby glitch.
It's a baby glitch. It's just
so
like
you
a
can see
little
right here the Spooky Action Glitch. It takes place a few times in this dungeon. The highlight that we're watching right now. So the Spooky Action Glitch is where you shoot the fire rod and it actually it acts as if it hits somewhere much higher on screen. So every time you see him like freeze in place for a moment there, it's because the fire rod that he shot, the game is acting as if he hit like something like 256 pixels higher or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the x-axis or the y-axis, a floor up or whatever, but it's hitting the switch and allowing you to bypass like bombing a wall and hitting a switch and then switching it back, a bunch of stuff like that. So it saves, I think,
really
10 seconds,
in that dungeon.
12 seconds.
Yeah, it's something. It's not huge, but it's significant at a skill level like Zelna's.
Absolutely.
Where anything that can save 10 to 15 seconds is monumental. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So really cool to see the 100% time go even further down. You know, until something's found, it's going to be small little gains for runs like this with runners like Zelna and stuff having optimized these so much. So.
Yeah, Zelna's a great runner. His world record was already incredible, and so to beat it with this run is just the cherry on top. Probably going to hold steady for quite a while until someone else puts in equal or comparable time, and or he comes back and tries to push even further.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's just take a quick minute break, and then we'll be right back. All right, so this next one is Magic Knight Rayearth, which is by Mijitsu. The category is any percent no Pulizu skip, and this is for the Sega Saturn in an hour 25.
Oh, cool.
17. Actually, this run might be faster than hour 25:17 because I had to update this world record as well. It's seen a little bit of activity recently. Shintak nicely submitted this one on behalf of the runner. He did write a novel, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But it literally, no, our spreadsheet, it literally fills the whole spreadsheet. So I'm gonna read some excerpts from this. This game looks really awesome, by the way. So
yeah,
enjoy.
It's cool to see a Sega Saturn speedrun too. We don't get a lot of them.
Yeah, enjoy the highlight while I read through some of this. It says, Magic Knight Rayearth is an action RPG, and it makes heavy use of a magic swap glitch, which lets the runner infinitely cast magic with the help of a frame-perfect input. By pressing the magic button and the character swap button on the same frame, it'll do a mana check on the character you're swapping from, but use the magic and mana of the character that you're swapping to. And so there's
cool.
There's a few big skips. There's one with an NPC pushing you out of bounds, which allows you to skip the first 35 minutes of the game, which mostly just consists of cutscenes and plot exposition, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's manipulation with the NPC that's done starting the game from a fresh power on and going as fast as possible to get a specific seed of movement. So it seems like it's pretty intense actually pulling off that trick. There's a map glitch that allows you to go straight to the final dungeon, but it does not get used in this one, I don't believe. It says, in this instance, in the no Pulizu skip route, you get pushed between bounds to bypass a story block to skip 2 dungeons and cutscenes. And after you're pushed out of bounds, you have to lightly tap upright to bypass the boulder without being pushed completely out of bounds. There's a lot of really specific movement in this one.
Yeah, that looks really cool. I've never even heard of it. It sounds interesting too, the mechanic of if frame perfect swap characters and hit something, then like it thinks that the magic that the one has is what the other has in terms of the amount of mana or whatever they have. I've never heard of that in an RPG, so that's a really cool, unique. You know, a lot of these genres get very similar types of tech in them. Right. You know, like, okay, we're gonna try and skip whatever we can, cutscene skip, dialogue skip. So to hear something like that, which I've never heard of in an RPG, is kind of.
This game looks really cute too.
It's a beautiful looking game.
I've never seen it before. I mean, maybe this is a well-known Sega Saturn game, but I'm just not familiar with the Sega Saturn really.
Do you think that's because you love anime so much?
I am a pretty noted fan of anime, but I'm also a noted fan of Nintendo consoles, and I don't believe this is one of them.
Oh. But as an anime lawyer, you may find more interest in it than your average viewer.
Yeah, you can see the magic swap glitch happening right here. If you look in the top left, you can see the character portrait swapping really fast. So there's probably a lot of really cool stuff that's happening here with making use of a different mana bar and different stats while you constantly trigger this magic in order to beat bosses and enemies really quickly. So that's really neat. This is a run that I believe not just Mijitsu, but also some other runners have been working on improving recently. I think there must have been some new tech found. So if this is up your alley, you actually might be able to find some live runs of this happening. So check out their leaderboard and see what you can find. I would recommend it because it looks really good.
Yeah, due to the Western bias that we kind of have in speedrunning, because we have a pretty noted delineation between our communities and the Japanese community for whatever reasons, the Saturn kind of gets overlooked. The Saturn was huge in Japan. I think like they got like 500 or 600 more games than we did on the Saturn. And so I know for collecting, there's a lot of rare, expensive stuff, but there's also probably a lot of games that are really cool on the Saturn that we just don't really know that much about because, you know, speedrunners tend to play the games that they grew up with, and most of us didn't grow up speedrunning a lot of Saturn games, or playing a lot of Saturn games.
Nintendo won the console battle, so...
Yeah.
But
and I mean, we just didn't get the games here. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a great game, and if this catches your interest, check out their leaderboard and see who's at the top of the leaderboard. See when their PBs were from, because there's probably some active work being done on this. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, this world record was just improved within the last week or so. I had to like re-pull down a new video for it after it got submitted. So these timestamps may not line up perfectly with what's happening in the run, but it's a lot of really cool stuff. So
yeah, it's also pretty rare that you be able to speedrun an RPG and it be under an hour and a half. If you're looking for an RPG speedrun, but you don't necessarily want to do a 5, 6, 7 hour run, this is a pretty cool option.
Yep. So
Dude, I'm excited about this next one.
Yeah, next up we've got Marble Madness Co-op.
It's the marble game.
Yeah, Marble Madness Co-op with Yellsrake and Ellipsis.
Two of my good friends. I love Yells. I love Ellipsis. Great runners. And I assume they must have done this at GDQ, right?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it happened at GDQ. It says, okay, yep. World record was completed in the AGDQ 2019 practice room by Yellsrake and Ellipsis. Trying to topple the Marble Madness Co-op world record is a GDQ tradition, but this toppled the old world record by 3 whole seconds.
Wow, that's a lot for a 3-minute game.
Yeah, some highlights from this run include a double-blind 55 practice race, which practice is the name of the first level of the game. And
whoa,
actually,
he just died, but it was faster than not dying.
You hate to see that happen because then that encourages a lot of cheating.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the practice race is really notable if you watch speedruns of this game because if you go fast enough, you're actually off screen for most of it. The camera can't keep up with how quickly you're moving, and so he says that they got a double-blind 55 practice race, which means they had 55 seconds left on the clock, both of them off screen at the end of it, with no collision with each other. Oh my god, you can collide with the other marble?
Oh yeah, you can.
That sounds awful. This sounds like a terrible speedrun. Oh my god.
I grew up playing Marble Madness, and I loved it. A lot of fun. I've never considered speedrunning it because the people who speedrun it, they're very serious about it. I don't want to get serious about the marble game, but it's really cool to see Yellsrake, who is he was just on for our River City Ransom kit. He is an amazing speedrunner. Definitely go give him a follow. He's underappreciated for his level of talent and
Ellipsis as well.
Ellipsis as well, yeah.
Incredibly talented speedrunner.
Absolutely.
And the interesting, like, I feel like you could say this about a lot of speed games, but I've watched a lot of Marble Madness in my life, like more than I feel like I want to have. And this is one of those games that looks like it's not that hard. This is miserably difficult to play at any speed. So
yeah, now you got to collide with each other. You know, like when you collide against, go. So yeah, I can't imagine wanting to play this with somebody else and bring about bumping into each other. And this is a game I would feel real bad about when I die and they don't, like, as a speed game. There's a lot of pressure. It's like a lot of pressure.
You know, Yellsrake has did a one player two controllers speedruns of this as well. He's put a lot of time into this game. He's actually got a really respectable 1-player time, which is impressive because this game has seen a really remarkable amount of attention. And so he's not only got a really great 1-player time, but he's also now got the 2-player world record, and he's got the 1-player 2 controllers world record, where he controls both controllers at the exact same time. It's just amazing.
Kind of crazy to think of for this game in particular. It just seems like it would be very frustrating. So shout outs to Yells, man. That's awesome. 2 really good speedrunners. Cool to see them do that together.
Alright, so next up we've got Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. And this runs by Jaguar King on the PlayStation 2 version, and the category is called Big Boss. I actually don't know a lot about this. This is not, I think I thought going into this that this is Metal Gear Solid 2, which is the more modern versions, but this is a remake for PlayStation 2 of one of the older games, it looks like, or is it a...
Well, Metal Gear 1 was on the NES and looked like this. So I don't know, Metal Gear 2 was a non-US release game that was similar and maybe was on some sort of PlayStation 2 bundle is what I would guess, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, his run looks just based
They're
on
MSX games. Okay, that's okay. Yeah, this looks just like the NES Metal Gear, but we got one Metal Gear on the NES. It looks like there was a sequel on MSX or other systems that we didn't get here.
So he played this on PlayStation 2. It must have gotten a re-release on PlayStation 2. He's playing on the PAL version. But yeah, I know that Jaguar King has done a lot of work on MSX games. He's run a lot of really cool ones. So this doesn't surprise me that this got his attention. He's a huge Metal Gear fan, a huge MSX fan. This is like a match made in heaven.
It's funny because there's so many. It's such a similar system to the NES, and we put these NES titles in such high regard, and we've never even heard of them. Games. If it didn't get ported to the NES or didn't get a copy on the NES, then we just don't even know about it. There's a lot though. Yeah, that Commodore 64, all those systems have kind of gone by the wayside. So cool to see here on the first record review we had Saturn. We had a Fairchild game. We had a MSX game. It's cool to see that.
Everyone's bringing out the big guns. I'm really glad because when I started envisioning how to do this show, obviously, as most people who are listening to this and have any familiarity know, this is heavily inspired by the Sunday Sequence Break. And when they would show their list of records, they would have an icon for each console to show what console it was actually on. And I was like, I wonder if I should put together like a list of console icons to like keep that tradition alive. Thank God I did not. Because that would have been miserable. This first episode would have been just all over the place.
When you started planning this show, how much of the time was I supposed to be drinking coffee or vaping?
Less of it than it turned out, but I think the show's okay despite it.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yeah, shout outs to Feasel for Sunday Sequence Break and being the inspiration for that. So I'm excited to bring this kind of content back to Twitch. I hope too.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game looks cool.
So next up is one that I did have to update the world record. So hopefully everything is looking good for this one. This run is Midnight Resistance on the Genesis, and I watched Liz Star do some runs of this and looked into it a little bit. It's a really neat sort of
Genesis Contra.
Yeah, it's like a Genesis Contra, even though Genesis did get a Contra. But it's like a Genesis Contra game, and it's got this really cool mechanics. This scheme where you can actually just rotate your gun with the B button. Like as you hold it down, it rotates around you and you release it to stop it in whatever position you want it. And so you can actually run and shoot in pretty much any direction you want to, which makes for some pretty interesting strats looking at it, you know, especially if you get the right weapons. This run leans pretty heavily on the laser gun. And so you can like run from things while you're shooting. You can run, you can be climbing down ladders and just clearing things out below you as you go. It's a really, really cool looking run.
Yeah, that does look cool. As someone who's run a Contra game that luckily didn't have mashing, it's nice to have a running gun where the main tech isn't destroying your hands mashing. Looks like these guns have a lot of fuel in them, you know?
Yeah, so this
like, let's just hold fire in front of us forever. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of ammo. You can see it up there in the middle, but between levels you can get ammo refills, so that helps a lot. This run is in... let's see, 12 minutes and 57 seconds by the Ravens table. Says, so this run has started to blow up out of nowhere. After being dormant for months, the world record has been traded to 3 different people in the past 24 hours as of submitting this. So I thought it'd be a good time to look at it. New tech and strats are being developed using the flamethrower weapon, and with more people saying they want to learn it and go for world record, it's a great time to look at it. Yeah, I definitely agree. I watched Liz Star run this, and I thought I should look at this game. It looks
really cool. I can't believe I've never heard of it. As some I feel like I'm generally pretty well versed in, you know, games, and especially for collecting and such. And I've never heard of this game at all, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's a really, really neat looking game. Anything else for that one?
No, it looks awesome. Go check it out. It sounds like it's a community that's just forming. You know, that's time to get in. It'd be a lot of fun if you want to get involved in routing and improving a game that people are getting interested in. Hop on.
Yeah, there's like 2 different control schemes, but it's really like 4 different control schemes. There's one where you hold B to stop moving and actually aim your gun, and then there's 3 of them where holding B just makes your gun rotate around you. The main one is where every time you press it, it alternates direction, so clockwise or counterclockwise, and then the other 2 is just always clockwise or always counterclockwise. So it's really just 2 control schemes, but it's neat because it seems like it's got a lot of flexibility for how you want to play it. So there's like a rotational control category for playing on that control scheme, and then there's another category for playing on the other one.
Wow, different categories even for the different control schemes. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I imagine it makes a big difference, you know, not having to stop and readjust your aim. So I guess they've decided that the other mode is interesting enough to still warrant its own category. So
yeah. Cool.
All right, well, our next one up is Mr. Cab 55.
Yo, our dude.
And it's Super Luigi Brothers on NES Remix 2. So this was what it was on Wii U. And this is the warpless category. Looks like it has it looks like it has basically the same thing as the original Super Mario Brothers, but you're running right to left is the big difference.
Oh wow.
Man,
that's backwards.
Yeah, that's the opposite direction of what you would expect to be. I wonder if there's any other significant changes in this.
Well, Mr. Cab says this is a great meme. This time is a terrible time. Someone please Bob K. Thanks. So
so him saying it's just a meme makes me think that it's probably not significantly different in any way. But it does look like a really interesting run.
Yeah, going right to left in Mario. After I would be interesting to see someone like Darbian or Cosmic or something.
Just see what they can
do this. Just because it's like you're so good at this game, but you're just reversing one aspect, like, you know, holding left instead of right. How much does that throw you off?
I don't know if you've ever played like the Mario Kart games on mirror mode, but it makes such a difference. You're just so used to everything laid out in one way, and
Parasite Eve has a thing that reverses your D-pad if you like a status effect, and it always throws. It shouldn't throw you off after a point. You've played the game enough, you know exactly what to do. But like for me, I always start going the wrong direction immediately whenever it happens. So
a little bit it's just one difference, but boy, what is different does that make?
I would say this is some chicanery, though. If I could be so bold as to say.
You can be so bold.
Some tomfoolery, if you will. Mr. Cab, which is always nice to see some tomfoolery from Mr. Cab. And I feel like the next game, a bit of tomfoolery itself.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about this one?
Well, it's Ninja Bread Man, which is one of the better gingerbread man-based video games out there.
That's true. So this is the any % category.
This game makes me hungry. Look at those cookies floating.
It does look pretty tasty. I'm not gonna lie.
I do want some cookies. That's pretty good.
So this run is by Granalant, and Granalant writes, this run on Ninja Bread Man was done on PC, which is important because the PC version of the game is missing the tutorial level entirely.
Oh, nice.
The downside to running on that version is that now all the skips and glitches in the Wii version are patched out, so you have to get a little creative to save time. In the first level, we abuse the fact that after you hit a checkpoint, you don't lose any progress that you've made after hitting it. Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. So, like, if you die after the fact, you go back to the checkpoint, but you save your progress.
Okay.
And the second level is pretty straightforward. Don't get hit till the second checkpoint, then you just start damage boosting through enemies. And the third level is just trying to find out the fastest route to get all 8 objects to complete the level. So it seems like a really short game.
Yeah.
I mean, the world record is 7 minutes and 37 seconds, but...
Have you played this?
I've definitely
like
seen it before.
A game you would have run, but I think that's I'm thinking of a different Wii game you ran recently that was...
Yeah, you're probably thinking of Mushroom Man.
Yeah.
This game's very similar to Rock and Roll Adventures that Linkums ran as well. Like, I don't know what it is about these sort of, like, probably quite good, but seemingly low effort Wii platformers.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but...
I mean, I would say this game would look terrible if you were just a generic 3D model. It'd be terrible, but because you're a gingerbread man named Ninja Bread Man, because you're also a ninja.
Oh, so we're just giving a pass to the game now because you're a gingerbread man.
I think so. I think that's what it gets, because you're Ninja Bread Man. So basically they came up with one pun, and that's all.
So if I took Bubsy and replaced the character with a gingerbread man, you would say that's a good game.
If it had a pun like Ninja Bread Man, yeah. You have to think of your own, though.
Oh, you didn't say that I had to be creative.
Yeah, that's what they did. They figured out the word ninja bread, and they were like, okay, we got a game, and then the rest wrote itself. But no, it looks fun. I mean, I've heard of this game. It's silly. I like games like this. I don't know that I'd ever speedrun a Wii game, but maybe if only if it was controller based, I would Wii mode. But you know, looks like this is on PC, PS2.
Yeah.
It's a little short, but maybe there's a longer category.
So this next one is basically 100%. Your favorite.
My favorite game.
Yeah.
See, I'm actually kind of upset right now. We have the Punisher coming up, right? In the alphabet, that's PU. And do you know what that means?
What?
That means there can be no Pringles in it. So apparently we're not... Yeah, we have no Pringles.
I cannot believe that the Pringles community couldn't come together to submit something this time.
But the Punisher's a really cool beat-em-up for Genesis. It's a really expensive collectible cart. So I've heard of it for that reason. Like, it's, I think, worth over $100. So kind of a tougher one to get if you're a collector. But it's supposed to be pretty good. I've never played it or anything. Short speedrun. Is that 38 minutes or 30? Okay, 38 minutes. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was 38 seconds. So like, crazy. But this is by Faust 4712. And a lot of words here. Do we want to read all this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we can read most of it. It says the Punisher for the Sega Genesis is a beat-'em-up port of the arcade game of the same name. Known for being notoriously hard, most people have never seen the real ending of the game, hard and expert difficulty. This is the normal any % record at the moment. Back in May, Lacey, RTSB, SM Izumi, and I were in a bit of a bop fest for this title, taking the record back and forth.
Bop fest.
So it came down from a 43-minute run, Izumi brought it down to a 41, then Faust ended up bringing it down to a 20-minute run. It looks like it came down a long way until
this is a 38,
43.
So...
38, 43.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, these beat-em-up speedruns are getting more popular, I like. I mean, El Rock got a bunch of them into GDQ. He's been doing a lot of these, and it does seem like as more and more people get into speedrunning, you know, there are people that are getting into this genre and, you know, shying away from platformers and action games that we're used to. So it's always cool to see, you know, you always see your Streets of Rage 2 and your Double Dragon and stuff. It's cool for these other lesser-known beat-em-ups getting speedrunning popularity.
Right.
But this is supposed to be a really good game too, just in general as a casual play. It's at least lauded. Well, it's either I felt like it's rare and it's supposed to be actually good. A lot of these really rare games or expensive games aren't actually good, but I've heard.
I've never even seen this game. I didn't know it had that reputation, but I guess if it's based on the arcade game, then it's probably pretty well known for that. So.
Yeah, let me see. I mean, I can see what it goes for. I only know about it from collecting, but it is fairly collectible. But yeah, some of these beat 'em up speedruns have been getting yeah, it's $90 just loose and up to $200 with the case, so it's pretty expensive. I actually saw a copy of it in a bin at a retro store, and they did not have it marked, and I was hoping I could get a deal on it, but it caught me. They knew it was worth something.
They knew what you were up to.
Yeah, but cool to see that getting run.
Yeah, somehow one of these runs that was on our list ended up getting dropped from our spreadsheet. So the run that got dropped was Phantasy Star Any %, and this is on the Sega Ages version by Mr. Starbird. I think this run actually came down. I remembered editing the video for this one, so I don't know how it happened, but I've just brought it up in the browser really quickly so we could take a look at it.
Okay.
It's so the game Phantasy Star got re-released in the Sega Ages collection. I think it's on like PlayStation 4 or something. It was a modern no, it's on Switch. But the Sega Ages version added a lot of like quality of life improvements that actually made the run a lot faster. So the run came from like 4.5 hours down to an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what all that was. I think that we had a write-up about it, but sort of in the hustle and bustle of putting together this episode, I think we lost one run from our database.
And this is Phantasy Star 1?
Yeah, this is the original Phantasy Star.
Okay, yeah, this is really popular. I actually just game. I had a copy of it because it was for like 60 or 70 bucks, and I got it cheap. But it's a really popular game for collecting because people say that it's a very good game. Like, it's aged fairly well for this style of RPG. Like, 8-bit RPGs don't generally age very well. Go back and play Final Fantasy 1 or Hide Light. A lot of those, you know, attempts at RPGs early on are kind of difficult, have aged poorly and are difficult to play now, but this is supposed to be a pretty good game and one of the best Master System games that exists.
Yeah, I don't have the text to be able to put up on screen, like at the bottom of the screen right now, so all the information for this one is that it's Phantasy Star Any %, specifically the Sega Ages version, on the Switch by Mr. Starbird in 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 22 seconds. So it...
That's awesome.
It's a really... I was surprised to see it came down so far, but I think it has a lot to do with some of the new features they added for the Switch version. Because you can actually look at it on this video. You can see that rather than the standard... I guess lack of HUD for this game, they've added a lot of things like being able to see information about your character on the side of the screen, and some extra information.
Points, your magic, your money.
Yeah, so it had a lot of improvements, and I think that's what ended up making the big difference of the time. I think the run might have actually gotten improved since this video even. I think maybe that's how it ended up getting lost from our databases.
So this is one of those, basically, here's a re-released version of this game that we you know, is more speedrunner friendly than the previous, but I would assume completely different categories, of course. I'm sure people still speedrun the 4.5 hour long Sega Master System one
it's
as well.
considerably longer. Let me pull up the leaderboard on the side right here so I can, well, it's on speedrun.com, so of course.
But Swarm is killed. That's not, you hate to see that.
Oh, it's called Swarm. That's fantastic. So the original game is 5 hours and 10 minutes for the world record. The Sega Ages version world record is speedrun.com is under a lot of pressure right now. Please check back later. So that's how my life is going right this second. An hour 13 now. It's come down even further. So
and that's faster than 5 hours, right? An hour 15 is faster than 5 hours?
That is my understanding.
It's a lower time.
Yeah, so the world record got brought down further. Mr. Starbird now has an hour 14 minutes and 55 seconds, but VEO, VEO underscore is the username, has an hour 13. So this has actually been contested a little bit within the past month, probably because the game just released. But it's really interesting how what should just be a straightforward port has really, gone from 5 hours to an hour 13. So
also cool that it's on the Switch, because it is, like I said, a bit pricier of a Sega Master System game and is generally included in any like 10 Sega Master System game list. So if you ever want to play that, if you're an RPG fan, this could be a good cheap way to play a classic. So that's always cool to see as well.
Yeah, Btrim says one big difference is the movement speed as well. It looks like you're zooming around. I think that was one of the big changes they made for the Sega Ages version. So that probably is making a pronounced difference on the runtime. So
sure, that's cool that they added some quality of life things too. Really interesting. So next up we have a PC game. I know you like the PC games.
I have
speedrunned them.
I have played PC games in my life. So this one's called Spectrum Break. And I've seen a little bit of this. It's kind of a unique looking platformer game. It's hard to really put my finger on what it is. What it is a lot going on screen at all times. But so
this is visual ASMR right here. This is where the visual ASMR tag is needed to be used.
Yeah. So Bruceinator got a 22:36 in this and said, "This is currently my only world record. I've been grinding it down, but there's so much room for optimization. It makes for a great speed game and has a supportive developer. Easy to learn, but with a high skill ceiling." So that's pretty cool.
That's really cool. I mean, like, there's just such a glut of these type of games, these indie, simple platformers. They usually have in-game time in them. They're usually quick. Sometimes they're very punishing in terms of difficulty in the platforming, and it's always cool to see different people pick these different types of games up and enjoy them. Some of them obviously being more and less popular than the others. I've never heard of this one.
This is a pretty interesting game to look at. It's
cool.
like every time you land on a platform, suddenly the platform gets physics and starts falling. So it looks like this really high energy, gotta get from where I am to where I'm going, but everything I touch starts to fall apart.
Yeah, this is one of those natural speedrun games. Like, that's what I feel like the modern games, some of them are built almost with not speedrunning in mind, but fast play in mind. Like, want to beat this level as quickly as possible, and that obviously translates very easily over to speedrunning, and especially with in-game time and all that stuff. Looks cool though. It's also just very beautiful, very fun to watch and look at.
Yeah,
I feel like it would be very distracting as a speedrunner though. I'd be like, it's a lot of colors going on.
Yeah, it's a lot going on all the time.
Cool.
So it looks like next up we've got Sunset Riders Any Percent Easy.
You've speedrunned this game, haven't you? Or talked about it?
I learned the Any Percent Easy. I think I learned the whole run. I just never ended up doing runs of it. Me and Sky have talked about doing some co-op speedruns of it because it's a really cool co-op game. But I just never got around to doing runs of it. But it's a very, very cool speedrun. A lot of really precision movement. The boss strategies are incredibly precise. There's a lot of options when it comes to playing this game as well. So like what characters you pick makes a really big difference between early game strats and late game strats. And there's not just like a right solved answer to how to play this game. You can do it a number of different ways. So
yeah. So Dark Alexander, second time on. This is an unfinished project that I finally put the time into getting good. First recorded run that's sub 18, so congrats on that. I had no intention of going for world record, but my previous PB was 6 seconds off, so I threw myself at it. There is still 25 seconds up for grabs, and I don't expect this record to stand for too long. This run helped inspire the big dogs back into the scene to help look for more optimizations, and while I'm so proud of this time, bringing another favorite game back to life in the speedrun community is a huge reward for myself, and I look forward to seeing it. So really cool attitude about that, you know, getting the world record, knowing that maybe it's getting the attention of the people who had run the game much more previously, but excited to get some attention back on this game. And this was like a really popular, or fairly popular arcade game, I believe, that was ported to Super Nintendo, and it's looks like it's a lot of fun from what I've seen. I know it's got a lot of kind of a cult following, cult classic game that a lot of people seem to.
I was on the couch for this game when Gus Mancino ran it at a
yeah, I remember
GDQ.
that.
It's got a lot of really cool tech, and just in general, it's a really fun game to play through. So if you've never played it, you should. It's really
yeah.
Really
the
good.
casual. This is definitely considered like a hidden gem in the casual community. This one. Congrats to Dark Alexander, first ever sub 18 in Sunset Riders.
Yeah, it's really really solid.
I'm gonna cover my eyes during the next one.
Yeah, sorry about this. So we've got Tintin in Tibet, the console version. And this run is by MC166, which, I mean, this is a really... It's a hard run to talk about because this is one of those games that it's definitely not built in the spirit of speedrunning, but it's got some neat little movement tech, some neat little optimizations that you can do. I would say that the Game Boy version of this game is way more speedrunnable just because there's actually stuff you can skip and little sequence breaks you can do. But short of that, this game is very challenging to play. It's well known for being challenging, but I think most of its challenge revolves around not knowing what to expect, like how to beat it. And so once you know what you're doing, it becomes a lot easier.
Sure.
But the thing about speedrunning this game is that at the very end of the game, there's the monastery or the temple that you're sort of going through, and there's a lot of little puzzles that you have to solve that are random every time you play it.
French on these splits?
It looks pretty French to me.
Seems real French over there. Yeah, these games seem like once you've beaten them once, like the speed, like a lot of the gameplay is just knowing what to. So that does take some of the interest out of you know, the gameplay or speedrun for replayability. But these games are very popular in the Kuso community for being considered not good video games. And I mean, you can see some fun gameplay though, like picking up books, putting them back down, picking up boxes. So.
Yuna says it is French. Also, this is being played on the SNES. I'm not sure if there were other console versions.
Yeah.
There probably were, unfortunately. This is actually, I mean, it's kind of a neat game. I actually have some undue love for Tintin games, but it's one of those games that what could otherwise be kind of a neat speed game, I feel like, is let down a little bit by the end being made up of those random puzzles that can just lose you time for no reason.
Oh yeah, that's no fun.
So,
Tintin.
That is the truth of Tintin speedrunning. So,
absolutely. Well, we've also got a really was originally a 3DS game, and then it got a re-release on the Switch called The World Ends With You. This is by Punchy, and it's a 31313. He says it's a game about dead teenagers who fight frogs by flinging cars at them with telekinesis. It owns.
Sounds like he was answering that Twitter thread about describe your speed game in 10 words.
Yeah, I mean, this game, I bought it for the PS on like all the hidden gem, or, you know, if you're going back through a system, these are the games you need to buy kind of list. And I just never got around to playing it, but I've heard very good things. It's got really unique combat and gameplay. As you can see, it's kind of an RPG, but with this cell shaded kind of style and action combat, a little more action RPG. It looks really cool. I know Proto Magical co-op runs of it, I think, at some point. So this getting re-released for the Switch has gotten the community a little bit more involved, because obviously it's a lot easier to stream and speedrun on the Switch than is the 3DS. So cool to see this game get kind of, you know, moved to a platform where it's more accessible.
Yeah, this is a cool looking game. I've never played it. I haven't watched a whole lot of it, but it was fun to watch.
Really cool.
It was fun to watch Proto and Hex work on this game. So
yeah, it's always nice when a game gets moved, because unfortunately, like, there's a lot of good stuff on DS and 3DS, and doing capture for it is just so technically difficult or expensive, and takes shipping off your system or hacking it and all these things. So when a lot of these games start getting moved to Switch, it's going to make them a lot more accessible for speedrunning and just for streaming in general, even for casual. So it's cool to see.
For sure. So our next one up is XCOM UFO Defense, which it has two different names. XCOM UFO Defense was its North American title, and then UFO Enemy Unknown was its title everywhere else. And it's kind of a cool game. If you're not familiar with the XCOM series, it's sort of like a tactical turn-based game with pretty cool combat in it. I don't know a lot about this run. This is definitely one of the way older titles in the series.
Sure.
But these sort of turn-based games usually devolve into some incredibly skilled routing. And so they're especially fascinating in that regard, because usually either the RNG is manipulated or the route is designed in such a way to mitigate the damage of RNG as much as possible. And so it's
the whole gameplay is basically based on RNG, right? When you're playing a game like this, I mean, you're doing tactical combat versus the computer, so you can't know what the computer's going to do, or else there's no gameplay. So breaking that with speedrun tech is pretty interesting. Have you ever played an XCOM game?
I haven't either.
I didn't think they looked like this. This is definitely an older XCOM game.
This is the Iron Man Superhuman category, which I believe is describes the difficult. I literally looked up a bunch about this game to try to figure out what it was we were talking about.
Ooh, they have a quality of life any percent, which I'm assuming QOL. I'm assuming they have a set seed or something they must run against to
maybe that's what it is.
That's what I'm assuming that means.
I didn't know what the QOL was referring to, but that would make sense if it was maybe either a set seed or maybe uses some mods to make the game more friendly to play. But if you've never played an XCOM game, it's sort of seen a resurgence, more modern, with some 3D titles in the series. But it's kind of a cool series. I know a lot of people really love it, but I know very little about XCOM, so.
That was the point of the Mario vs. Rabbids, right? To be like a fun Nintendo cutesy.
Yeah, it's that sort of game. It's
like
basically
satisfy that kind of gameplay with, the Mario license. That.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's always interesting when speedruns do stuff like that. And I've heard of speedruns where, there's a 5% chance of getting some item on a PC run in the beginning of the run that you need, and so instead of having everybody grind out the RNG forever, they all agree, hey, we're gonna agree that everybody just gets the seed where this happens, and that's how we run the game. It's kind of interesting. It's a little bit like controversial, I guess I would say. I don't know. What do you think about doing that?
So this, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what the rules say on the leaderboard. It says, this runs on the open XCOM version, so this is an open source version of the game with Iron Man enabled, and it has a lot of specific rule choices that you make when you set up the game. Like, there's a lot of settings you can choose, and so it chooses things like force fire on, force launch on, enhanced sprites on, like a lot of things that are the quality of life improvements that's talking about. And there's some custom rules that are set. And someone in chat said Btrim said Iron Man has more to do with the limited amount of recruits and such. So it does seem like it's sort of a difficulty mode, but combined with quality of life improvements to make a well-balanced speedrun.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't know, it can be controversial, like your speedruns to be who's playing the game as it was sold, as quickly as possible. But then there's also communities that say we don't want everyone grinding out for a ridiculously low percentage of RNG chance, so we're going to make it, available, or we're going to change these settings for that. I mean, what do you think about that in general?
I think that that's good. I think in the end, the goal is to have something that's fun to speedrun. I think it's fine. Like, we've talked about before how BioShock did that. Like, they ran with a mod.
That's what it was.
One of the BioShock games ran with a mod that guaranteed you would get a specific drop that was otherwise like a 5% chance or something like that.
That's what I was referencing,
So that people could actually do runs. So that's really good. Space Cow said it specifically refers to your soldiers are super fragile and permadeath. So, yeah, definitely difficulty mode. So.
Wow, that's really cool. So, yeah, it's just always an interesting. We will all run the same seed of Parasite Eve with the same RNG. like it would feel a little bit unfair, but I think it's usually used in situations where the RNG is so low percentage chance that it's for one thing or a couple specific things that, you know, it would ruin the speedrun community ultimately without it. So I think it's cool. It's just worth discussing. But looks like an interesting game for sure. Old PC game. Sure.
So next up we've got Yonoid 2 Game of a Year Edition.
Game of a Year.
Yeah.
Years.
Game of a Year Edition. So the updates that were made to this game were they introduced more characters that had different stats, but this is specifically on the Vocal Noid category. So that's the original character. This game's really, really cool and very short. It was sort of a game jam game that took about a month to make the original version of it. It's got a lot of really cool movement, a lot of really fun tech to it, and it seems like they've really broken the game even further open. So
absolutely. Yeah, I remember you playing this. I remember it was at GDQ recently as well during a silly block or awful block or something. It does have a dedicated dab button, which is real important. That's Yep, dabbed on the first episode. How do you feel about that? I think I dabbed. I actually don't think I did. There we go. I did it wrong the first time.
Yeah, you dabbed on our last episode too.
Sometimes you just gotta dab on the haters, but yeah, it's a fun little game. I'm surprised you didn't speedrun way more actually. Like so up your alley.
I was really enjoying playing it, but I wasn't wanting to put the amount of time I would have needed to. I mean, this is actually a pretty challenging speedrun to learn. Yeah. It's got a lot of really cool movement, but it's non-trivial.
So you don't like challenging speedruns, is what you're trying?
No, I usually like games that sort of play themselves.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Then you get the glory, but you don't have to work.
That's the point.
I get it.
I don't like to put a lot of effort into my speedruns, John. I think you know that.
Well, congrats to Chocolate Cake 50,000 for that 1103 on.
I think this run has actually, by the way, been improved since it was submitted.
Oh, wow.
Not necessarily by Chocolate Cake 5000. So this video is probably very slightly out of date. I think this is actually now the second place run. First place run is by Spectral Platypus, and it's actually been brought down another 45 seconds or so. But just reading off what Chocolate Cake wrote, says the run was pretty good. The first highlight in here involves some really precise jumping, so he was happy they got so quickly. The second highlight is his favorite level, and the mic fight, which is the very end of the game, was very strong with good dice RNG. So
I assume it does the amount of damage that the dice is rolled at or something.
Maybe.
He's throwing these die at the enemy, so...
I think also it's like where it randomly appears when it falls onto the stage.
Well,
like you don't want it, you don't want it to fall in one of the spots where the ground is electrified because then you can't get to it.
Okay, I gotcha.
So I think that might be what it is, but still, this fight's actually, if you play this game casually, which everyone should because it's actually a lot of fun to play, but this is a particularly difficult fight. Like getting those dice to sort of whip around and actually throw them at the boss is really challenging. So
basically, this is basically the Bowser fight in SM64 is what you're saying.
Yeah, but harder than the Bowser fight.
Looks fun. That's awesome. Cool. Congrats. It sounds like it is a bumping time to be part of the Yonoid 2 Game of a Year edition.
Game of a Year
community.
And so our last run for tonight is going to be Legend of Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link 100% glitched by Enchantress of Numbers. And this is
the other NES Zelda.
Yeah, this is the good NES Zelda. And this is a really interesting run. This is not the 100% all keys category, which is the most commonly run category of this game. This one implements a lot of really cool glitches that really just break this game wide open. The world record for reference for any percent all keys, which is a glitchless category that tries to basically play the whole game as intended. That's about an hour and 15 minutes, and this run is under an hour. So it does make a pretty significant difference, all of these glitches. Eon wrote, since September of 2018, the world record for this category has been brought down by almost 4 minutes. Prior to September 2018, the world record had stood for over 5 years. My run uses a new route originally developed by Meg Mac Attack and Squibbins that only requires 2 healer glitches. Healer glitch is this glitch that allows you to walk into a door in a glitched way that sort of warps you to weird places. It's hard to describe exactly what happens, but it's a double frame perfect trick. It's very difficult to execute. It only requires 2 healer glitches. as compared to the previous world record by Simple Dude, which required 3 healer glitches. My new record run was actually just supposed to be a test of a routing change, doing Palace 2 before the second healer glitch instead of after, which ended up saving about 45 seconds, and about 10 seconds were lost due to a second try healer glitch, and set the run up very nicely for a new record. This has all been part of a grind I've been doing to bring my time down to sub 57. I wouldn't expect this record to stand very long. And I guess...
Yeah, it looks like she still has time to save for sure, but...
I'm pretty sure I checked this one. I think this is still, yeah. Oh no, the world record is actually sub 57 now. So this
says 56:59.9 on the screen. The video.
This video is the 56:59. I just didn't update my text, so it still says 57:03. But the world record actually came down to 56:59, so that's really exciting.
Yeah. No, that the run we're watching is 56.
Yeah, this is the current world record video we're watching. My text on screen
really
is
awesome.
just out of
So
date.
it's still Eon, though, who's a really amazing speedrunner. She also is a Tetris Grandmaster. She's done a couple of Tetris exhibitions at GDQs, which has been a ton of fun to watch, obviously. You know, those were always really cool to see. She's just super talented. She did, you know, a bunch of Biomiracle, which is a game you love, and a lot of other stuff. So it's cool to see her. She's a good friend of ours. So
for sure.
And yeah, this is not as run as the other 100% category, as you said, but still, any world record in Zelda 2 is real impressive. There's a lot of people who are active with this game all the time, and yeah, that's super awesome. So, and it looks like she can possibly save a bit more time as well if she's going to continue grinding.
For sure. Yeah, this is a really cool category. It's just amazing how wide open this game can be broken. And so it's exciting to see that she not just got the world record, but got her goal time of sub 57 minutes.
Yeah.
Just really, really solid run.
Sweet. Well, that's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really world records, a lot of things going on.
Yeah, we got to talk about a lot of things we pretended to know something about. So
yeah. Well, it's just, you know, when we talk about a game every 2, we don't always get to pay homage to all the cool stuff happening now in the community. So it's really cool to see all of these different world records, a lot of obscure games, some really popular games, all the whole gamut of it. So
for sure.
What if people are waiting for you to get a world and haven't yet realized you don't speedrun anymore? Where would they find you?
You could find me at twitch.tv/AuthorBlues. You could find me all number of places. How about you, John?
You can find me at John Carls on Twitter and Twitch, and John Carls1 on YouTube. Be doing some speedruns as well this week. Hopefully Author Blues will be back to it. Next week we're doing Sonic 1 with our dude Dr. Fatbody. That's going to be a really good episode. That'll be next Sunday night at 8 p.m. So definitely make sure you make it out for that episode. And yeah, I mean, that was it. Any last thoughts or...
No, I think that was pretty awesome. So this is going to be our new off-week routine. I mean, we may end up missing some weeks when one of us is out of town or something like that, but we're going to try to make sure that we are keeping up to date. A lot of these runs, you know, it's like, oh, maybe this isn't the world record anymore because it got submitted, you know, more than a month ago for our first episode. But now we are on our sort of 2-week timetable. So runs that you see will be fresh and new, flavorful, you know.
Yeah, feel free to submit runs that you see. Also, we will be tweeting about this and posting this on YouTube. If you think anybody would be interested in the record review that doesn't know about it yet, make sure you give us a shout out or send them a link. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in this, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing this going forward. So I appreciate you all showing up for the first episode on the ground floor here.
Yeah, I think our plan is going to be to get these YouTube videos out the door real fast. So whereas our normal episodes we record and then don't post the video for almost 2 weeks, I'm planning to get this video on YouTube probably by tomorrow. So you'll be able to watch it. You'll be able to share it around. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about lots of cool runs. Make sure you're submitting. Make sure you're telling people to submit their world records so that we can talk about them here.
Yeah.
We like you all.
And that's it. We're going to go ahead, cut, and host somebody or do something.
Peace.
Peace.